Alright guys, welcome back to F1 News. Big update in the F1 paddock today with AlphaTauri potentially getting sold or shut down by Red Bull Racing since being Toro Rosso for several years, since really the inception of Red Bull Racing in Formula 1 almost 2 decades ago. They've been a staple at the sister team of Red Bull. Now though, AlphaTauri is either going to get shut down, moved to England, or potentially sold to another owner. Could this be good news for Andretti trying to get into the sport? Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you are new as always. So this came out today during testing that big news about the future here of AlphaTauri. The new Red Bull management. This is the thing. Dietrich Mateschitz, of course, passed away sadly last year, and that was a big, hit to Red Bull, but also required a change in direction in terms of management and the like. The new management has come in and said, yeah, this sister team, we don't like it. We want to shut it down. This seems maybe inevitable, right? Because Toro Rosso were kind of the sister team to Red Bull for years. Of course, Sebastian Vettel and other drivers got their start, Verstappen and the like, in that car. And then over time, it's become AlphaTauri, and over the last few years, they've changed the branding of it, really. Now, this kind of coincides with this AlphaTauri fashion launch or whatever it is. There's like a couple of AlphaTauri shops in the whole world you can go to, but I'm not exactly sure I'm fully sold on this kind of AlphaTauri clothing brand really being a big deal. But of course, at the same time, once you've advertised it for a couple of years, like, you might have kind of got the point across, if you know what I mean there. So I don't know exactly what you guys think about AlphaTauri, but also the fact is, they've not been competitive, right? They're okay a couple of years ago, but they're not looking so good this year. They obviously were terrible last year compared to Red Bull Racing themselves. Does it really add value to run an entirely additional team for Red Bull Racing? They don't think so. They don't reckon the marketing value it generates and the results of the team are enough to justify the high cost of the team. So either it will stop being an Italian team, because right now it's Scuderia AlphaTauri, they're based in Italy, either it will move to England or it could straight up be sold. And there would be, I'm sure, many interested parties on making this happen. So either it moves to England and they maybe work more closely with Red Bull, I don't know, or it is just straight up sold onto the highest bidder. Now, there are plenty of interested parties. I was wondering, and it's not even mentioned here in the names that Toby Groomer from Amos discusses, but I wondered, right, because we know that Honda wants to come in again in 2026. This may be, in fairness, slightly, shorter term than just the Honda situation, but we know that Honda, they're kind of still with Red Bull, but they won't be for too long. It's going to be Red Bull Ford in a little while, and then what's going to happen with Honda? Are they going to be able to come in again? What's their plan? A little bit difficult to say. I did wonder, though, whether Honda could say, you know what, we're just going to do a works team and we're going to take over AlphaTauri and just run that spot ourselves. That's possible, but they are not included in the potential buyers. One of which, of course, is Andretti. Andretti want to enter the sport as the 11th team, but, the teams don't really want to allow that to happen. The teams say they've got no problem with Andretti. The problem is with the money and with the dilution if they have an 11th team in, and with, does it bring enough value? And the teams, they're like the status quo. That's how it is. However, it's not going to go down to 9 teams. That's not going to happen. Like, there's no way. Someone's going to buy AlphaTauri, and the teams, obviously, they're like the status quo, so someone else taking over AlphaTauri would probably be fine for most teams. And also the fact that I know that some teams, I'm sure, aren't so happy that Red Bull effectively have 2 teams on the grid, as in, we've seen examples in the past. I think it was Qatar 2021 when Verstappen was behind Gasly. Maybe Gasly could have defended, but he, mysteriously deactivated his DRS on the straight, so Verstappen could get past or activated it late or something like that. And of course, last year there was the whole drama at Zandvoort when Yuki Tsunoda had that whole weird pit stop shenanigans. They put his tyres on, then he was gone, and there was this whole conspiracy that Red Bull have decided to make him do that to call in a safety car, which helped Verstappen. I don't really buy that idea, but like the whole idea that you've got 2 teams on the grid that are kind of, going for the same goal is always a bit of a questionable situation in sports in general. So I'm sure a lot of the teams might not be too mad actually about the fact that AlphaTauri would just get shut down and someone else could replace them. Would it be Andretti? They're obviously interested. They would, either they come in as the 11th team or they say, yeah, we'll just buy AlphaTauri's spot and make it work from there. That's also a possibility that I'm sure, look, they've got the backing from General Motors and Cadillac, right? So it could well happen. The other one is High Tech Grand Prix. They've been trying to get in for a little while, and also an Indian billionaire. We've talked about many of these billionaires. Some Hong Kong billionaire, I think, as well wanted to get involved, but the Indian billionaire that owns the Mumbai Falcons racing team, he wants to get in as well. So I guess Andretti is the best backed of all these potential candidates, but of these candidates that applied in 2025, all of them are now interested in taking over AlphaTauri. Now, is this true? That's another question, because Red Bull initially denies this. They talked to the mirror and said, no guys, there's nothing going on. I don't know what you're talking about. This is definitely not occurring. However, Helmut Marko, as he usually does, is pretty blunt about this stuff and basically says it as it is in this statement that he came up with recently, saying, generally, we don't comment on rumours. But he goes on to say, we're not satisfied with what AlphaTauri have achieved last year, P9. It's understandable, but such a decision is entirely up to the shareholders. Going on to say, when you have a team that wins the title in Red Bull Racing and the other one is only P9, the synergies don't work properly. The overall result is not satisfying. As good business people, our shareholders will make the right decision. So he basically says, yeah, like, it's not working for us. Something's got to give. Either we sell it, either something happens. But yeah, quite the statement there. What do you guys think what should happen here? Should AlphaTauri be shut down? What's the future here? Will they go back on this Red Bull Racing? Is it a good thing for the sport? Is it a bad thing? I kind of miss the Toro Rosso brand, to be honest. And maybe AlphaTauri has run its course a little bit in Formula 1. Few updates I've got to bring you guys before we close out the video here. I didn't mention this the other day because we simply didn't have time, but Ferrari have actually reshuffled their strategy department ahead of the new season. Iñaki Rueda has been like the key head guy at Ferrari Strategy for some time, and it's honestly a miracle how he's managed to retain his job for this long, I thought, at the very least. It's like people were suggesting like this guy must have dirt on the bosses of Formula, like he must have dirt on Bonotto to not get fired. But he's not been fired exactly. He's been moved to a factory role, whereas there's going to be a new strategy boss here at Ferrari. Really about time, to be honest. But indeed, Iñaki Rueda will be remote from, I guess, still a strategy perspective, but they've got a new guy in charge of strategy, and that is Ravin Jain, who's right here, Indian origin, brought up in England, physics undergrad degree, and a master's in mathematical and theoretical physics from Oxford, so pretty smart guy, I imagine. And look, is he going to be better than Rueda? And of course, the whole discussion is right now at Ferrari that maybe it's not just a one-man show, like there's other reasons why their strategy has not been so good, but still, they've got rid of the guy that was kind of taking the brunt of the blame over the last several years. They've brought in a new head man, and we'll see if this works out well for Ferrari, but they're at least taking steps right, and they're trying their best, it seems, at least Fred Vasseur is, to try and right the ship and make some changes, because, you know, I feel like Bonotto should have done this a while ago, but they're making changes right there, so I think that's a positive sign for Ferrari going forward, although it's far from guaranteed they're going to be as competitive as Red Bull are at the start of the season. Some other updates as well on the F1 rules, loads of changes lately to the rules, but these are some key ones, so just some things in Bahrain and some penalty points and the like, but this one I thought was quite interesting. Touching the white pit exit line will result in a 5-second penalty. You guys might remember last year in, I think it was Monaco, where you come at the pit exit in Monaco, and it's quite a tight exit. You turn the corner to the right, especially with, let's say we've got cold tyres, breaking into that corner, it's a very tight pit exit lane because it goes side by side with the main track. And I believe both Perez and Verstappen on their way out the pit lane that year, or last year in 2021, touched that line, and if they were over the line, they would have had a 5-second penalty to both of them. However, they weren't over it, they were only on it, and therefore they got away with it. However, they've changed the rule, so even touching the white pit exit line will be a 5-second penalty. This is, you know, for most Grand Prix, it's probably fine, but for Monaco especially, this is a pretty big deal. I would not be surprised at all if plenty of drivers during that Grand Prix accidentally touch that pit exit line and get a 5-second penalty. Maybe they'll change this rule specifically for Monaco, but yeah, I don't know, it's pretty interesting because it's very easy to hit it around there, and obviously if that was the rule last year, the results would have looked rather different for that particular Grand Prix weekend. Perez wouldn't have won, Verstappen would have been P3 because there was just the four-way tussle at the front between the Red Bulls and the Ferrari that weekend. And just to close out with this from Haas, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this by now, but most pit walls look like this. This is Red Bulls with plenty of seats here. Most teams have something looking just like this. Haas, though, have what basically looks like an ATM machine. They've just got 3 guys in this tiny little booth here on the side of the pit wall. Now, this looks pretty funny. Why would they do this, right? Turns out, actually, that this is going to save them, apparently, $250,000 a year in just transportation costs, I'm guessing, for taking this to each Grand Prix, which saves them $250,000 from their budget cap, which they can put into actually improving the car. So Günther Steiner commented on this and said, well, hey, like, you know, would we rather have $250K for car development or for transport costs for this stupid pit wall thing? They'd rather have the $250K for the car development. So we'll see if that works for them, but I thought it was some interesting stuff. And thankfully, with the new MoneyGram sponsorship, Haas will have, we believe, enough money to hit the budget cap this year. So finally, we might have a Haas that starts okay, but actually finishes okay in the season, rather than last year when they absolutely fell off a cliff. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.